recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the gentleman from Oklahoma, my good friend, the chairman of the Rules Committee, for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, in 57 hours, this government will shut down. Federal workers will be sent home. Members of the armed forces will defend our country without pay. Programs that feed hungry moms and newborns will stop. Travelers will face airport delays. Critical research on diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's will grind to a halt. So you would think last night, when the Rules Committee held an emergency meeting, that it would be on stopping the shutdown. That's the actual emergency, Mr. Speaker, that is facing our country. But you'd be wrong, because instead of a bipartisan CR that can pass, we're back at the 11th hour to amend a rule, the first rule this majority passed in weeks, because once again, Speaker McCarthy is letting extreme MAGA Republicans blackmail him. What are we doing here? What we are doing here is absurd. This assistance for Ukraine has been in the defense bill for years, well before the latest invasion by Russia. This isn't even the Ukraine funding that President Zelensky asked for, or the funding the administration requested. This shouldn't be controversial. First it was in the bill, then it wasn't, then it was. Then yesterday we had a standalone vote on Ukraine funding, and the House voted overwhelmingly 339 to 93. A majority of the majority, an overwhelming vote against stripping the Ukraine assistance in this bill. And instead of accepting that loss, extreme MAGA Republicans are blackmailing Kevin McCarthy. And here we are rigging the rules to undo that vote. They want to overturn the will of this House. They refuse to accept the fact that they lost. What is it with Republicans refusing to accept when they lose? Why can't you accept the loss? Why can't you respect the vote? I guess there's a pattern here. We see that when they didn't want to accept the presidential election. And here we see on the House floor, when the extreme MAGA right-wing Republicans don't get their way, when they lose overwhelmingly, they can't accept the loss. They go to the Rules Committee and they say, rig the process. Did Trump call them and tell them to do this? I mean, this is so unbelievably wrong. The gentleman from Oklahoma has said some members have very strong moral objections to assisting Ukraine. Okay. I have strong moral objections to the billions and billions of dollars in blank checks that were given to the Pentagon. I have strong moral objections to the fact that we refuse to ban the transfer of cluster munitions to other countries around the world. But guess what? It's our job as members of Congress to weigh the pros and cons and vote yes or no. If people do not want to make those tough decisions, don't run for Congress. And I appreciate that the gentleman from Oklahoma voted for and supports giving Ukraine the tools they need to defend themselves. But what the gentleman is doing here is making it exponentially more likely that this Ukraine funding will not become law. Because if this doesn't make a difference, if these bills are moving together, and this is all just about giving people yet another chance to vote on something they already voted on, what's the point? I mean, the rule provides 30 minutes of debate on this sidecar Ukraine funding bill. 30 minutes, 15 minutes on each side. Boy, what a debate that's going to be. I mean, come on. And I'll tell you what the point of all of this is. And let me read you the words of our colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene when she left the Republican conference meeting this morning. She told the reporter, and I quote, "We're not funding Ukraine. That's what I heard in there," end quote. Well, let me inform the gentlelady, we all had a chance to vote our conscience, up or down. Those who voted to strike Ukraine aid could go home and tell their constituents that they voted to strike Ukraine aid. It's not that complicated. And what concerns many of us is the signal these extreme MAGA Republicans are sending to Putin. Putin is an authoritarian thug. What he is doing in Ukraine is sick. His troops are shelling nuclear power plants, killing civilians, bombing hospitals, abducting women, massacring people. And my MAGA colleagues want to send him a message. And that message is, just hold on a little longer. Wait a little longer, and you can do whatever you want. This House had a vote, and we are here to overturn it. All because Speaker McCarthy is letting extreme MAGA Republicans blackmail him, because he cares more about keeping his job than doing his job. And I urge a no vote, and with that I reserve my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much.